Dave Talks Comics, Episode 46, Small Press Expo, Part 1. Dave Talks Comics is a podcast on the subjects of comic books and cartoons. I talk about comics I have read and cartoons I have watched, and sometimes conventions I have gone to. Dave Talks Comics can be found on the web at davetalkscomics.com, on Twitter at Dave Talks Comics. Email can be sent to dave@davetalkscomics.com. I talk from my notes on these comics and cartoons and conventions. I don't go panel by panel. I try to do more than just summarize the stories. This podcast is not spoiler-free. I try not to spoil everything, but in the process of talking about these comics and cartoons and conventions, I may spoil them in some way. On this episode, I'll be talking about part of the day that I spent at the Small Press Expo, which was in North Bethesda, Maryland on September 13th and 14th. I was just there for the 13th. I will be talking about basically all of the books that I bought, which wasn't that many. It will include some mini review. Well, I don't like to say reviews. I actually have read a couple of the books that I bought, and so I'll be talking about them, as well as mentioning some of the others that I haven't read yet, but that I did buy. And I will also be talking about the first of 3 panels that I went to. Small Press Expo 2014. I just got back from dinner, but before that I was at the Small Press Expo from about around noon, maybe a little before noon, until about 7 o'clock. The show opened at 11, but I had stuff I needed to take care of before, and I thought I could get there in time, but getting all that stuff done, I didn't quite get there at 11, but I don't think I missed too much. The line wasn't very long. I parked in the Metro parking garage, which is like 3 or 4 blocks from the Marriott where the show takes place. But the advantage is that there's no charge in that parking lot or that parking garage on the weekends. And that's where I've parked every time in the last, 5 years? Since 2009. It's at least since 2009 it's been at this Marriott, which is near the White Flint Metro station. So I parked there, I walked over. It was raining a little bit on the drive over, but by the time I got there, it had stopped raining. It wasn't raining very hard. It wasn't like after the Baltimore Comic-Con when I got caught in that downpour. But, so I got there, I got in line. I had to wait, maybe a couple of minutes to get my pass. I bought a 2-day pass, even though I didn't think I was going to go tomorrow, Sunday, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to go. I just have a little too much stuff I want to get done. So I got my pass, and then I went to walk around. I didn't really have anything. Well, there was things that I had thought of that I was interested in looking at, but I didn't have anything, I don't think I did, big in mind to buy that I don't think there was anything too big that I had in mind. So I walked around for a while. It's a big room, nowhere near as big as Baltimore Comic-Con or Heroes Con, but it's a decent sized room. The aisles aren't super wide, but they're wide enough that 3-4 people could walk through across, and loads of tables, loads of creators. So I walked around zigzagging back and forth, not looking at too much too closely, kind of like at Baltimore. I kind of was just trying to get the lay of the land, looking for things that looked familiar. And eventually I came across a table. I think it was Microcosm Publishing, which I wasn't familiar with, but I didn't notice the name of the publisher. What I noticed what was on the table, which was they had a stack of Copra Round 1. Now, this was a comic book that I talked about way back on an earlier episode of Dave Talks Comics, somewhere in the first 10 episodes of Dave Talks Comics. This is created by Michel Fiffe, and that's Fiffe, and I'm pretty sure that's the correct pronunciation, even though I've heard other people say Fiffe. But this was a book created by Michel Fiffe, and it is kind of a riff on the Suicide Squad and some other stuff, but this is an independent book, and it's about a team who basically gets accused of doing something, and then they have to go on the run, and so it's kind of, government agents or former government agents trying to justify their actions to the world, and it's a excuse me, it's a very cool read. Let's see, it was episode 5 of Dave Talks Comics that I talked about Copra, because previously I had bought the Copra Compendium, which collected the first 3 issues. Today I bought Copra Round 1, which collects the first 6 issues. And this has been a really hot property, a really hot book. It has not had big print runs. And so I got the first compendium, and then the second one came out, and the third, and a fourth, and I don't know if there's been any more than that. But I had the opportunity to buy them, and I just kind of let it wait. I figured I'd wait, and then they went out of print. And then it was like $25 to buy one of these, or more, probably more like $50 or something, I don't know. I mean, and they were like $12 cover price, and I paid, I think, $4 shipping in addition to the $12 to get the first compendium. And I might have bought more. I don't remember if the second compendium was available at the time I bought the first one. Anyway, I really liked it, and so when I saw this, I had to buy it. It was $20 for the first 6 issues, which seemed like a great price. The description on the back says Action Superhero Revenge. And this is printed by Bergen Street Press. And the funny thing is, I go online and I can't find anywhere to order it online. Now, I'm not checking things like some of these services that allow you to pre-order comics. But I can't find it through Amazon. I can't find it through the Bergen Street Press site. All I find on there is an announcement saying that it will be available in September 2014, and that it'll be available for pre-order over the summer, and it will be out in September 2014. So I'm really glad that I got it. The other thing is that I went back to the table later on, and actually I had to piece together which table it was, because I couldn't remember exactly which one it was. But I'm pretty sure it was Microcosm Publishing that I bought it from. And when I went back a couple hours later, I didn't see any sign of the Copra book, of Copra Round 1, on their table. So I don't know. I'm thinking they didn't have a huge number of them, and they sold out of them pretty damn quickly. I don't know. So I'm really glad I got this. Now, the creator was not at the show, Michel Fiffe, and that's Michel, which is, it's a guy. It's that's French name for Michael, and he was not at the show. I asked if he was at the show. They weren't sure. They said to check with, I can't remember exactly which comic book publishing group it was, but somebody else that they might know. But I looked in the program, and he wasn't listed as being there. I don't think I've ever seen him at SPX. I have seen him at Heroes Con, and I've seen him at Baltimore Comic Con, but not at SPX, I don't think. But maybe he's done the show in the past. I'm not sure. So that was the first thing that I purchased. And I didn't buy a whole lot of stuff today. I did a pretty good job restraining myself. There was a number of things that called my name and wanted me to buy them. Some of those were things like the Andre the Giant comic by Box Brown, and I did go to the table that had that, and I looked there, but I just could not. I thought about, I said, well, maybe I'll come back and buy it, and eventually I did not, and I don't know if that was the right call or not, but I can't remember exactly what that publisher was. But there was another book at that publisher's table, which was a story that I think I heard discussed on 11 O'Clock Comics, which was, I thought I heard it discussed on 11 O'Clock Comics. It was a book about here it is, This One Summer, that's it, by Mariko Tamaki. And this is by, I can't find the publisher's name, but this is available on, First Second. First Second is the publisher. And this is a book about every summer Rose goes with her mom and dad to a lake house in Owago Beach. It's their getaway, their refuge. Rosie's friend Wendy is always there too. Like the little sister she never had, but this summer is different. Rose's mom and dad won't stop fighting, and when Rose and Wendy seek a distraction from the drama, they find themselves with a whole new set of problems. And the description goes on, but that's all I'm going to read. And it looked very nice. The illustrations were beautiful. I got a feeling that this is, it says heartbreaking here. But it also says ultimately hopeful story. So, I don't know. It looks great. On Amazon, you can get it for, it looks like it retails for $18. On Amazon, you can get it for $14.66. Well, that's not a huge discount. It's almost 20% off, I guess. But, let's see. So that was another thing. I think both of those were at the First Second table. That and Andre the Giant. I thought about picking that up, but I did not. I did pick up a few things that I had not heard about, had not planned on buying. One of those was The Disappearance of Melody Dean. And the tagline for this is Love, Murder, Time Travel, which sounded interesting. And the artist, the creator, I believe she wrote and drew it, Alexis Sugden. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Was there, and she had the original art in a portfolio book, and so I looked through that, and it looked good. I think I actually liked it a little better uncolored than colored. The coloring is a little less subtle than I would like it to be, but I have not read this yet. I have only flipped through it. It looked interesting, and it looks like it ends with some time travel, but I'm not sure exactly how that happens, because it looks, and this is just the first chapter, and this is a webcomic also, so I will try to remember to post links to the webcomic. So, looks interesting. Caught my eye. I think I paid $5 for this, and she was very nice and pulled a copy out from the middle of the pile, which was not bent or creased. And since then, I have managed to crease some of the corners of this copy, so it's no longer in perfect shape. But I'm looking forward to reading this because I have not read this yet. And there was somebody she was sharing a table with. I'm guessing this is, let's see if I can find a name on this comic book, but he was handing out free comics. And True Tales of Luke Humphreys. Second place, Australia's Best Comics 2013. My First Year of Mortality? I'm not sure. But it's a flip comic. It's a mini comic. It's a flip comic. I have not read this yet. As I said, it was free. He was handing these out. I don't know, maybe they had overprinted, or maybe they're just trying to get exposure. I'm not sure. But there isn't a whole lot of contact information in here, I don't think. No, it's basically printed cover to cover, and I mean, there's story on the inside covers. So, that's strange. You'd think, oh, here it is. Yes, there is some contact information in here. Okay. The next thing I picked up that I paid for, well, that was the only thing I got for free, other than a few business cards. And I actually managed to keep those to a minimum. I did not come home with a fistful of business cards like I do sometimes. Is another mini comic. This one's called Elementary, My Dear. And this is by a guy, let's see, his name is J.S. Haler. And it's a science-based comic, not a science fiction, and let me see if I can remember his pitch. He does have a website, and I will post that in the links, but it's a comic about, this one is a detective story, obviously, because it's called Elementary, My Dear, and the characters are all embodiments of the elements from chemistry, like hydrogen and helium and so on and so forth. And this isn't very long. I think it's about 16 pages. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Well, maybe it's 24 pages, actually. But it's, I think the guy who did this is, it's not the most polished work. And by that I mean it's rough. I think he's put a lot more into writing the story than he has into drawing it, and I could be wrong on that. I'm sure it's not easy, but it looks like it looks like he's rather new to this. I mean, it honestly, it looks like somebody who had an idea, who isn't an artist, but who had an idea. And he's obviously has some artistic skill here. But it's not, like I said, it's not very polished. It looks like he's somebody who had an idea and wanted to put something together. And so this was his idea. This is what he wanted to put together. I should have asked him about what he does for a living, because I mentioned that I skipped chemistry in high school. I never took it, so I have no idea. I wanted to know, well, how much am I going to, miss out? And he was like, well, it'd just be like if you watch an episode of television and sometimes some of the jokes go over your head, because you don't know certain things. So I did read this while I was at the show, while I was taking a break between walking the floor and going to a panel, and actually I was charging my phone also at that time. And it's an okay story, I'm not sure. He had 3 issues there. He was trying to get me to buy all 3 for $10. I just picked up one of the issues for $4. And it's, I'm not sure if I would go back and read more of this, at least not just based on this. But it's always interesting to get new things and see what people are have out there, what people are doing. Okay, so there's only one other thing that I bought, and then I'll talk about panels. And that one other thing, actually it's two things. I bought two books. They're the first two parts of what is planned to be a 3-part story. And the first one is called I'm a German Shepherd. And the second one is called I Used to Be a German Shepherd. And I tried to ask him, the creator's name is Murilo Martins. He's originally from Brazil. And I got him to give me the sales pitch, but I asked him, well, what's the deal here? What's going on? Because the first one's called I Am a German Shepherd, and the second one's I Used to Be a German Shepherd, so what happens? And he says, well, you don't want me to spoil it. And I was like, well, no, go ahead, spoil it. But he still wouldn't spoil it for me. So he talked about it a little bit, and I was moved to buy it. I'm thinking about giving these to my mother, at least loaning them to her to read. I think she would like them. That was part of the reason why I bought them. Actually, I went past his table once and took a quick look at them. He was talking to somebody at the time. I put the books down and I kept walking, and then I came back around, and he wasn't talking to anybody, and so I asked him about the books, and I ended up buying them. They were $12 each, but he was selling, if you bought both, he sold them for $20. So I got both books for $20. And during that break during which I read the Elementary My Dear comic, I also read the first of these two, I'm a German Shepherd. Now I understand why the second was called I Used to Be a German Shepherd. And it kind of has to do with the fact that this is a story about a dog that is a German Shepherd, obviously, and is a sheepdog. And it kind of gets into the fact that German Shepherds are closely, and I probably should look in here because there's actually some quotes from some factual sources about the relations or the blood ties or the genetic ties between German Shepherds and wolves, and so, and this is about this is all about animals. Although you see a couple of human voices, word balloons from humans off panel, coming in from off panel, but you don't see any humans. It's all the dog and the sheep, and something happens, and there's the sheep are all white except for one. There's a black sheep, and the black sheep I think is new, and there's kind of a back and forth between the black sheep and the white sheep, and then something happens, and then you get into I Used to Be a German Shepherd, and I can understand why he didn't spoil it, because there's a couple twists in the end of the story, and but it's a good story, and it's a very, I don't want to say a simple style of drawing, but it's not too dynamic, I guess. I don't know. I don't like to say that. I mean, most of the focus seems to be on the sheep and the dog. But it's a good story. I enjoyed the first issue, and I'm going to read the second one soon. And maybe I'll talk about both of them at that point. And there's supposed to be a third one. I didn't ask him if he had but he said he's still writing it. He hasn't even started drawing it yet. So I should have asked about how he draws too. I wonder if he does this on a electronically, or if he does this. Well, I don't know. It looks kind of. I don't think it's electronic. I don't think he's doing this drawing electronically. I think it's, I don't know, but maybe the backgrounds are. Yeah, the backgrounds might be, and some of the textures. I don't know. I'd be curious to know how he works. Maybe I'll look up his website. And these were limited prints. He's got them marked. This was, I think, a reprint of the first one. The first volume, I'm a German Shepherd. It says Redux Edition 2014. So I think this, I'm not sure. I think it originally came out in 2013, the first one. And this one I think is, and it's marked copy 60 of 100, so only printed 100, I guess, of the new edition. It's got interesting stitching here. It looks like it's hand stitched. I wonder if he did it himself or if he outsourced that. Because the binding is like, you can see the string that connects all the pages and holds them all together, but it doesn't have a smooth layer on top of that, and that's how you can see the string. But so the first one is I guess this is a second printing, and I got copy 60 of 100, and the second one, I used to be a German Shepherd, is a first printing, and it's copy 88 of 200. Very nice, though. So I went to 3 panels today. I went to let's see, what was it? I went to the first panel was the Raina Telgemeier panel. She did a panel on, well, she was talking about her new book and her old book. Her old book is a book called Smile, which I thought about buying. It was only $10. I used to read Smile when it was originally a webcomic, and that's how I discovered it probably 10 years ago, something like that, back when I was first getting into webcomics. And it's a story, it's a true story about her dealing with braces. She tripped and fell when she was young, I think 10, 11, 12, something like that, and broke or knocked out both of her 2 front teeth and had to wear braces for something like 5 years to before things were all straightened out. I guess they had to put the teeth back in and all that. So it was about that, and I wore braces for about 3.5 years myself. And there was other things like a retainer I had to wear after that. So I don't remember exactly how long that all went on for, but so I have some appreciation for what it can be like to wear braces for a long time and getting them tightened up every month. Yeah, I know all about that. But so that was the first panel I went to. So she was talking about her book. Her new book is called Sisters, which kind of takes place within the time that Smile took place, although it's different focus, and it's about her and her sister. And I think she said it was for the most part true. And she has another book that she'd written called Drama, but I think that was more or less fictional, but based on experiences, but mostly fictional. And the Sisters book takes place during a road trip that she took with her family when she was in her teens, I think. Let's see. She talked about process. She talked about Bristol board and ruler. She talked about how she starts by doing thumbnails and then does pencils and then inks and then letters and coloring. Although she outsources both, though. She does not do her own letters or her own coloring. She mentioned that she kept a diary comic for years. When she was growing up, she would do a comic each day about her day. I think that's what she said. But I did tape this panel. I'm not sure how well the audio came out. They did have speakers, or they did have microphones, so I'm going to assume that it probably came out pretty well. Once again, I'm not going to release it as a separate episode, but I will make the audio available. She talked about working with Scholastic Press and making mini comics in reference to how she got started. She talked about the influence of theater on her cartooning and how theater influenced her and influenced and the parallels between theater and cartooning and why they go well together. She talked about, she was asked for recommendations. She mentioned one called El Defo, which was about written by C.C. Bell, and I'm not sure if that's Bell, Belle, or if there's some other spelling, but which is about a girl who went deaf when she was 4 and had to wear hearing aids afterwards. And I guess there's some parallels between that and her experiences with braces, although the hearing problem was a permanent one, unlike her teeth problem. And then they brought out some paper and she did a drawing demonstration. And unfortunately, I was sitting a little further back, so I couldn't really see the picture. And honestly, this was a panel, her comics are aimed at a younger audience, are aimed at a YA, a tween to teen audience. And I didn't feel comfortable, sitting up front or acting too interested, competing with the little kids for attention. So I didn't get a good look at the drawing she did, but she basically asked the audience for suggestions for things. So she did a 4-panel comic strip. And so for the first panel, she asked for a suggestion for a character. And a number of people threw out suggestions, but the one she went with was a tap-dancing turtle. And then she asked for for the second panel, she asked for another character to be introduced. And somebody suggested a break-dancing rabbit, so that's what she drew. And then she asked for a twist in the story, because she was also made herself a character in the story. And she said that she was getting ready. So basically the breakdancing, the tap dancing turtle was busking, performing for money on the street. And so then she had a dollar bill in her hand, and she was thinking about giving it to the turtle, but then the breakdancing rabbit shows up. And you know what? Honestly, I can't remember exactly how it all winds up in the end, but what happens in the third panel is that the tap dancing turtle starts breakdancing. And of course he starts spinning on his shell, which just seemed like a natural. And I'm talking about this from memory, but I can't remember exactly how she resolved it, because that's what the last panel would have been, the resolution. So that was about it for the Raina Telgemeier panel, and I think I will provide some links to her stuff. And the only other thing worth mentioning from that panel is that somebody came up to me, and I was kind of sitting off to the side, and there wasn't anybody really sitting around me. There's some people sitting a few rows in front of me. And some guy came up to me and asked me if I was staying at the hotel. I don't know what the hell that was all about. I don't know why he would have asked me that. Obviously, I don't think anything's obvious. I got no idea why he asked. I thought it was really strange. But, okay, I think I'm going to pause this at this point. I think I've been talking for a little over a half hour, and I've got 2 more panels to talk about, and then I've got some final thoughts on SPX that maybe talk about visiting some other tables and not visiting some tables, but will all be in part 2 of my Small Press Expo 2014 coverage. That's it for episode 46 of Dave Talks Comics. Questions or comments can be posted on the episode page at davetalkscomics.com or tweet them to at Dave Talks Comics. Email your questions or comments to Dave at davetalkscomics.com. Next time on Dave Talks Comics, I will be wrapping up my coverage of the Small Press Expo, I will be talking about the other two panels that I went to, and I will also be giving some overall thoughts on the show, and I might ramble a little longer than I intended to. Thank you for listening.